I don't have a remote that I need. Hello? Nothing. Can I call you back in a minute? Can I call you back in a minute? Thought so. What's up, y'all? It's Phil. I am in my new shop and I am ready to get some awesome stuff done. However, I am not very good at actually organizing and stuff like that. So I've got these French cleat walls behind me that I have put all around the shop in a couple different places. I've still got some more to make. And so I wanted to share today with you how you can quickly and easily make the same style wall pretty inexpensively. So if you yourself are a professional woodworker or you are a weekend warrior, this can work for either a large production shop or just a small garage. In fact, it's probably better in smaller spaces because it's a pretty good space saver. So as you can see behind me, I have actually got a couple of different pieces in multiple places. I've got some screws and stuff here, some sandpaper here for the sander that's over there. I've got some of my Festo equipment that I don't use as often, but I need it here, available up there. I've also got my track storage up above. Over here I've got all of my clamps, and all of these clamps are also on a storage system that hooks into the French cleat just like everything else does. I've got some rags and some random things, and this little guy is just stuck on the floor in front. It's not part of the system, but this is kind of awesome because you can move stuff around as much as you need to, which is pretty cool. Now the way that we do this is extremely easy and can be done with just a table saw. I would recommend doing this on a table saw because cutting smaller pieces on a chop saw, even a sliding miter saw, is extremely dangerous compared to modern day table saws. So I'm going to show you how to do that on that. As far as materials go, I'm not entirely sure what you will need. For me, I used one sheet per panel. So I've got 2 panels here, 1 panel there, 1 panel there, a half panel going over there, actually a full panel over there but sideways. So there's a lot that I'm doing. I would recommend, based on a 4x8 sheet of plywood, if you want to do a not so tall but much longer piece, still do your 4x8. Or if you want to do a big old square, do 2 4x8s. Plan on buying another sheet of plywood because you're going to need something to make the cleats out of. So I purchased a bunch of what's called radiata pine. Radiata pine. Pline's not even a word. I purchased a bunch of radiata pine sheets at my local big box store. Now, that is a slightly better grade than the sanded plywood, but it's still not all that good. But it has a super thick pine veneer, which I wanted for this project because while I'm moving things around, I don't want them damaging the veneer on the front edge of the ply. And so using the radiata pine, plus the fact that I'm not going to be painting it, finishing it, or doing anything to it, I just wanted nice thick layers of plywood, and that's what the radiata pine gave me. Feel free to use whatever you want to use. I've actually used some scrap wood in this project as well, but for the most part, I think using just a nice thickly veneered pine plywood is cheap, it is economical, and it's extremely effective for what we're doing today. Why are you eating that? You have $100 in chew toys. And you're gonna eat it. Okay, have fun. So for starters, plan out where you're going to put your pieces and cut your main base pieces to size. For me, I use the full 4x8 sheets because I happen to have that kind of room. If you don't need that kind of room, okay, cut it smaller, but it's kind of nice, honestly, having it go as tall as possible, starting with the bottom at roughly 30, 32 inches off the ground. It's kind of nice. So to start this project, you need to figure out how much plywood you need. Now, go ahead and purchase 1 extra sheet at least, and that's going to be the pieces that we make our cleats out of. To make the actual cleats, you want to rip your other board down to 5-inch strips. So they'll be 8 foot long, 5 inches wide. and roughly around 3/4 inch thick. Again, depending on your plywood thickness, it doesn't really matter. As long as you choose the same plywood every single time, the thickness will always be the same. So go ahead and rip that sheet down to multiple 5-inch wide pieces. Once you've done that, then we want to set our table saw at a 45-degree angle. This is what's going to give us the actual French cleat that meets together. And in order to do this, you need to measure from your fence to the inside kerf of your table saw. That needs to be at roughly 2 3/4 inches, which is going to be about exactly the middle point. Just trust me on these measurements. Because of the angle, I know the math doesn't exactly work out, but it's going to be close enough that it's not going to matter. Now you want to go ahead and rip every one of your 5-inch wide pieces into 2 strips. And these will give you pieces that at the tall point is roughly 2 3/4 wide and roughly 2 inches wide at the short point. Now you've got a whole bunch of 8-foot long strips. Go ahead and cut those in half so that they're only 48 inches long if you are doing a taller French cleat. If you're doing a longer French cleat, go ahead and leave them at full length. Now the next part can be fully customized to you, but to keep it simple, I already did the math for you. From the top point of each cleat to the bottom point of the next cleat needs to be exactly 7 inches. If you're doing a nice tall French cleat, this will give you enough room that you have like nothing at the very top. 7 inches down, your first cleat, 7 inches down from that, all the way down to the bottom. It'll be a nice, even look, and then you don't have to worry too much about the spacing, because we'll get into that in our boxes later. Now the way I did this was to make a 7-inch template out of plywood. I basically just cut one big long strip from scrap wood I had sitting around the shop. So to start, I went ahead and put the pieces on the wall and double checked them to make sure that they were perfectly level. Once your big piece is level, everything else will just fall into place. So to start attaching the pieces, I lined up the bottommost piece with the bottom edge of the plywood, double checked it again to make sure that it was level. Once I was sure that it was level, I added glue, I added brad nails, went ahead and tacked it directly to the plywood and left it to dry. Then all I did was take that 7-inch template that I had made earlier, set it on top of that piece so that the topmost point and the bottommost point of the next piece would all meet together. This made it so that there was perfect spacing between these pieces. I already knew it was level, and I could just keep going. It makes it so much simpler when you actually use templating. If you don't know what templating is, check out my video on that, which you can find right here. Once I set the next piece in place, I simply added glue, brad nails, took the template out, moved it to the next spot, and repeated the process yet again. I did this all the way up to the top where, as you can see, I actually stopped shy of putting one on the top because that's stupid. If you don't have something for it to actually not only hang on but also press against, it can slowly pull its own way out and fall. So I didn't want to put anything on the very, very top. I also knew that in this shop that's going to be pretty high, and with my Festool tracks and stuff up there, I really don't have any need to get up that high, so I stopped 7 inches shy of the top edge and just left that spot open. So now let's talk about making the boxes. So to make the boxes, I basically chose which tool I wanted to put where. And then the where doesn't matter so much because you can always move this stuff around later, which is one of the advantages of doing a French cleat system. But I would make these boxes to fit specifically what I wanted it to fit. For example, for my sander box, I made it to fit my orbital sander so that it can sit on top. I've also got extra pads in case I ever wear one out. Plus, I've got the main 3 grits that I normally use, so I can take a couple pads out, have them very easily accessible. I made this with a quick and easy dado, which is super simple to do. Set this whole thing up, and once I made this little box, all I had to do was add the French cleat on the back. And I added some kind of towards the middle and some kind of towards the bottom, which gives it 2 places to grip to. And that allows it to actually stay completely on the wall, whether I'm grabbing the sander itself or the sandpaper. If the weight in the box changes, it doesn't matter that much because it's got 2 places to hold onto the wall. And if I don't like where it is, I can always pick it up and move it. Make sure to hang on to your 7-inch template from earlier, whether it is an 8-foot long piece or 2 smaller pieces, kind of like I'm using. You won't necessarily need the full size piece in the future, but here's why. Whenever you're installing the cleats on the back of one of the boxes that you make, you want to make sure that you have the exact same spacing. So again, make the box to fit your tool and your needs. There's really nothing specific I can give you here, you just do it. Once you've made the box, You can either put a backing on it like I've done on this one, or just make sure that your screws hit exactly into the plywood edges and you should be good to go. Always pre-drill if you're going to be using plywood, and use a little bit of glue because that just kind of helps secure everything so that over time it doesn't break and fall down. Just like when I attached these, I did 2 screws in the front of this one, 2 screws in the back of this one. That part doesn't matter, just do whatever you like for whatever look you like. However, what I will say is I wanted this one to hang a little bit higher on the wall, so as you can see, I actually did this backing lower and I hung this top piece lower and then did the bottom piece in accordance with the template. Again, that's up to you, but mainly what you want to do is make sure that your piece, the longest point, is facing away from the box, because on the wall, the longest piece is going to be facing away from the wall, and when they come together, that will make your joint. That's how a French cleat works. Pretty simple. Okay? So the long point should be away from your box, long point here should be away from your wall, and it all works out. Put it in place where you want it to be, add some glue, pre-drill, add some screws. If you're doing a single one, you're done. If you're doing a double one, take your template, lay that down, go ahead and make sure that it's touching the long point, not really too, you don't want it going underneath, you want it just barely touching the tip of that long point right there. Get your flat point of your next piece, set it right up against the bottom of it, glue, pre-drill, screw, brad nails if you want, it's secure. Now you can remove this and you have the exact same spacing here that you do back here. And in doing that, it makes it so that that piece fits exactly between 2 of the cleats that you've already put on here. I was almost out of frame for that shot. So anytime you're doing multiple cleats to your project, make sure to add them using the template. Also, once again, make sure that when adding them to your wall, the cleat is facing out. And when adding them to your box, the cleat is facing out, so that when they meet up, they'll do what they're supposed to do. It's pretty simple. Y'all, this is an easy project that everybody can do. It is something that I am so glad I finally did in this shop. I cannot believe it took me this long to actually get around to doing it, but new shop, new ideas, new ways to organize, because like I said, I am terrible at organizing. And I basically did the same thing for every other box that you see on the walls behind me. I have got all of my clamps, I have got all of my paper towels, I've got my glue, I've got my Festool stuff, I have got literally everything hanging up on this wall on a French cleat. Some of them only have 1 cleat, some of them have 2. My clamps should probably have 2 because they're kind of heavy, but for now it works, and I'll eventually upgrade that later. But this has been an awesome system to start with. Clearly, I've got a lot more to do. However, like I said in the beginning of this video and in past videos, I am absolutely terrible at organizing. So the best advantage to doing something like this is that unlike my tool wall, which is behind you right now, which is well organized and everything goes in its own place, I'm not entirely sure where everything is going to go for the rest of the tools. In fact, since I started setting up this shop, I've reorganized these twice. I still have a French cleat wall over here by my lathe that hasn't even been touched yet because I don't know where things are going to go. So I have to say the biggest advantage to doing a French cleat wall is that you can move stuff around as much as you need to, which is awesome when you need to move stuff around and you're as unorganized as I am. These sort of walls make everything extremely accessible, and it also makes it very easy for you to organize your shop in a pinch. You can rearrange a whole bunch of things without it costing you a lot of money, and you can customize it to your level, which I like customizing even though I'm really bad at organizing. So thanks for watching, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this quick tip. If you did, make sure to like the video and definitely subscribe. I have just realized that only about 8% of my subscribers actually watch these videos, which means I've got a ton of people watching these videos that aren't subscribers. It takes 2 seconds, it doesn't hurt you, and Google's not going to come after you or send you any other advertisements that you don't already get. So go ahead and click that subscribe button, which is right down there. Ring that bell so those notifications will turn on, and all the other crap YouTubers are supposed to say. Check Check out all the links below if you want to see the tools that I use. Check out my Amazon store, check out charliepants.com, and use my code PMK20 for 20% off your first order and sign up for the rewards program so you can get pants like me. And make sure to share this video on social media if you like it. I know there's a lot of woodworkers out there asking about an easy way to do this kind of system. I've seen some better, I've seen many worse. This is what I came up with, this is what I like, and this is what I'm clearly using in my shop. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.